Today, of course, friends, family, and colleagues gathered to say their final goodbyes to photojournalist Adam Ward. He and reporter Allison Parker gunned down last week on a live TV interview in Virginia. Now, the Westboro Baptist Church had threatened to protest that funeral today, but fortunately they backed off those plans.
The group is notorious for interrupting funerals of soldiers, saying it's God's will that our men and women in the service were killed. They also said that God sent the shooter to kill Adam Ward and Allison Parker.
Joining us to talk about this, Pastor Lonnie Peak with the New Cavalry Baptist Church here in Detroit. First of all, do you think that Westboro's church stance is a little strident, a little harsh?
I think that they get a lot of publicity as a small minority that likes to protest, and their religion is protest. Who can we be against? Who can we bring some spotlight on that turns a spotlight on us? So they really, a congregation of about 40 members, so they really aren't a church. They are a group of individuals who fly under the banner of a church.
As a pastor, can you weigh in on this for us? How can they say that they represent God if this is what their mission is?
I think that's a very good question. A lot of folks will take scriptures or take a position and they'll turn it to meet their own personal perspective. They're doing that because that's what the banner they fly under. That doesn't necessarily make it a legitimate banner. So anyone can claim to be speaking for God, but see, God speaks for himself. So I think that what they do is they take a situation, they explode it, so the cameras are turned on them, and all they're about is protesting. No, they're not for anything, they're against everything.
Now, Reverend, obviously this day of social media, a small group, as you say, a group of about 40 people can have a huge voice if they're tenacious enough. But is all this just feeding into this contentiousness that's happening all around the country, the us against them, the them against us?
I think that's another excellent question. We find ourselves right now in a period that is very demonically inspired, and the devil's role is to destroy relationships. So what he does, he slithers around like he did in the Garden of Eden to have folks get all hyped up about a particular group or a particular situation. So that's why we have to be very careful what we protest about and what we say and what we raise up, because a lot of times things that we're going down the path on behind a group of people leading the parade is not a justifiable position. And this country right now is going through a transition. It's going through a spiritual transition. So we have to make sure that we don't give folks like this particular individuals who call themselves a church any of the spotlight.
How do you think this hurts the healing that our country so desperately needs right now?
I think that the first step towards healing obviously is prayer and direction. There's nothing wrong with prayer. Prayer works, and from a spiritual perspective, we inside of our churches have to pray for healing, have to give a sense of direction from the pulpit, and to have our congregation members understand that God is still in control. No matter what fools are doing outside of the church wall, God is still in control. So we have to have the peace of Jesus in our hearts to lead our congregation, but to also lift up that Jesus came for peace, not for disruption.
And Reverend Peak, what do you see the role of the church should be involved in communities like Detroit overall?
I think that the church has been, always will be, a cornerstone of our community. As you know very well, in Detroit, the churches have a tremendous impact upon the politics, the social justice, the educational system. So I always look to the church as being an entity of activism. Jesus was an activist. He was a social activist who came to save our souls. So the church has a specific role to be actively involved in politics, social affairs, and education.
How do you think we can keep the focus on the people who are being laid to rest? Obviously, this is not the first time they've tried to protest or actually have protested at a funeral. How do we keep the focus on what the focus should be and the healing that needs to take place as opposed to on these protesters?
I think we focus in upon, as you said, we focus in on the families. We pray for the families. We give them support, because what individuals will do is that they will try to distract us from what the real goal is. And the goal is during this time of transition, during this time of mourning, these families should feel love coming to them, not somebody out there with a picket sign.
All right, Reverend Lonnie Peak, we thank you so very much for coming by and weighing in on this subject here, and we're happy again to report that there was no protest as threatened today at the funeral of this young journalist killed.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.